Hello, everybody. I'd like to give a huge shout out to our sponsor, the Transgender Center of the Rockies, a program of Mile High Behavioral Healthcare. They are this season's Authenticity Ambassador, and we thank them for their support. I would also like to thank our sponsor for this episode, Partners and Passports, for being our authenticity advocate. Thank you so much for your support. Welcome to Being You, an SPH Productions presentation. My name is Shane Hodges, licensed professional counselor and author of It's Time to Be You, How to Become Your Most Authentic Self. My guest today is Anthony Rapp. Anthony, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
I gotta say, when Dustin lined this up, I was a little bit starstruck. Rent is one of my favorite musicals, and I really enjoyed the movie as well. So,
thank you. Very
excited. I like to start with a rapid-fire Q&A. I'm gonna set a timer for about 60 seconds, and we're gonna see how many questions you can get through.
I'll try.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Let's see. Street you grew up on?
Grew up, so many. Cedarwood, that's one of them.
Okay. Do you like to cook?
Yeah.
First pet?
A dog named Poochie.
Favorite theater?
To perform in or see things in? Oh,
Perform.
My goodness. To perform in. The Nederlander.
Okay. Coke or Pepsi?
Neither.
Movie that you watch over and over again?
After Hours.
Okay. Who is your idol?
One of them is Peter Gabriel.
Do you speak multiple languages?
I speak some French and then some phrases in many other languages.
How tall are you?
About 5'8.5" ish.
Okay. First Broadway show you saw?
Broadway show I saw. You mean in New York Broadway?
Yes.
I think it might have been Barnum.
Okay. Do you remember about how old you were?
I was 10. I just don't know which. I saw a few shows then. I think it was the first.
A TV show you binge watch?
Drag Race, but not.
Do you watch all of them?
I have watched all of them. I'm behind in the current season.
Would you ever go base jumping?
That's when you don't have a bungee?
Yeah, it's like off the wall and you like have the wing things that pop out.
Oh, wing thing? I might do that. I would need to do a little more research, but yeah.
All right. Well, that was just over a minute, and it looks like we got through, that was 16. So pretty good number, I was going to say. Well, let's get to know a little bit about what you do. You are a Broadway actor, not just Broadway. You have been in television, movies, and in musical and theater. I was noticing when I looked, your roles go back to the 80s, and you were very young when it all began. Yes. So what can you tell us about how it got started?
I can tell you that I was just a kid growing up with my mom, who was a single mother, and my older brother and older sister. And one summer we went to a summer camp in northeastern Pennsylvania. She was a nurse, my mom, and she got a job as the camp nurse. So we just went along with her.
Wow.
So we got to be campers. And while I was there that summer when I was 6, I auditioned for the musical. I couldn't tell you why.
At the camp?
At the camp. For the kids.
And
I didn't have any experience before that of doing that. And I just auditioned. I got the role of the Cowardly Lion in The Wizard of Oz. And I have a very vivid memory of feeling so happy doing that. Like I feel this thing about authentic self. I felt like I was the most, as much as a 6-year-old could, there wasn't the language I would use, but I felt so at home, so safe, and had such a good time and had good feedback. I didn't know anything about showbiz. I didn't know anything about what being an actor meant or anything like that, but I just knew I loved that. And so we went back the next summer, I did 2 more shows. And then when I got back to Joliet, Illinois, where I grew up, I found an audition for a local musical version of A Christmas Carol. And I called and scheduled myself an audition. I was about 8. So I again, it wasn't from any kind of like ambition to be an actor. Like I didn't know what a career was or anything. I just knew that that's something I wanted to do. I just wanted to be a part of it at 8. You
called and scheduled your own audition,
which is more proactive than I am as an adult in some ways. I'm serious. Like it's I like get trepidatious about sending professional emails sometimes. Just
I understand.
So
Gen X though, that like we're a different breed. We just did it.
So I had really, really encouraging directors working with me at that age. We lived outside Chicago, and one of them was like, you should, to my mom, like, maybe you could get some professional work. So they're like, okay. So it just all sort of like, one foot in front of the other, but no grand plan. This is before the internet, before social media, before reality TV.
Right.
There was nothing to look to. Like, that's how you
And was mom a big supporter?
She was a huge supporter. And
Nice.
I now have 2 toddlers myself. My husband and I have 2. And I mean, I want to make them, give whatever support I can to whatever they want to pursue.
Nice.
She was a single mom raising 3 kids.
Right.
I don't know how she did it. I mean, it was amazing, I was just fortunate that she was like, she loved the arts. And she seemed like she really was happy that I had found something and it was helpful that she also loved it. You know what I mean?
Was she into the arts herself?
Just as an audience member,
Okay.
as a participant of consuming it or being the presence of it. She wasn't at all, she wrote a little bit, but, she was not a performer. She wasn't a singer. She was very mild-mannered. She was a great nurse.
Okay.
And a really loving mother to me. But she made that possible for me to pursue. And then we learned as we went.
So what do you remember being your first big role or role that you were really excited about?
I mean, all of them I was excited about. But when I was 10, I got cast in, there was a musical version of The Little Prince. And I got first cast as the fox, the fennec.
Okay.
And then during rehearsals, they fired the Little Prince and they promoted me to the Little Prince.
Okay.
It's probably very hard for him.
I
He
can
became
imagine.
my understudy. I mean,
oh, wow.
I was 10, but it was really exciting and really fun, but it was a terrible show and we never opened. Anyway, so that was a great, exciting experience. I was 10. I got to fly in the show. It was just sort of having this incredible experience. And then it all went away very quickly, which was my first experience of that.
Wow. Well, as I mentioned earlier, you've done theater, musicals, television, and movies. What are the biggest differences that you notice between the different genres?
It's really technical. I think there's some misguided assumptions sometimes. So the assumption, I think, would be that in theater, everything's big, and in film and television, everything's small. And there's some truth to aspects of that, but it's not necessarily about being over the top and loud. It's like your presence has to fill the space. And on film and television, because the camera can be really close, you're not going to make wild expressions. It's truthful. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Both
Yeah.
art forms require truth to me, authenticity, honesty.
I get that.
But it's also true to what it is. But then the other technical things are, when you do a play or a musical or a theater piece, you get to do the whole thing every night. You start beginning and you go to the end.
Right.
And so you technically have charted the journey of that. And then the technical job to me is every night bringing it to life, and every night's going to be, it's not like you press a button and you're a robot. It has to still be alive, but that you're like living in the house you've built.
So,
and in film, you break it up. So you spend 1 day or 2 days or whatever it is on that scene. You give your whole self to that, and then you're never doing it again. And then it's all put together after the fact. So you have to do the sort of work of telling the whole story as homework, and then break it down into the scenes. And then it's up to the director and editor and whoever to put it together.
Right. Make it pretty. So with the different genres, do you have a preference?
Yeah, I prefer theater as a performer. I love both as audience members. And I've had great experiences doing film and television, but my preference is theater.
And why is that?
The experience of being able to, I do love being able to like dig deeper every night and have each night be the challenge to make it happen again.
With regard to the theater setting, what do you notice most in terms of energy or vibe from the audience?
Listening. You can experience listening can be palpable, I guess. It's nice to get like a big applause for a big musical number, but that can be exciting. But when it feels like it's true to the moment, then it feels like there's been listening, there's been an exchange, there's been presence. What I've done has reached them, and then they're giving me something back for that. So it's the feeling of exchange.
I want to ask about Rent, because you did the Broadway show, then the movie, and then you went back to the Broadway show. What was that adjustment like, or what did you notice about flipping back and forth?
It was a question for us when we started doing the movie of like, how do we need to be more contained in certain moments? And I remember so clearly when we were rehearsing La Vie Boheme, for instance. La Vie Boheme is a big over the top. I think it's not over the but it's high energy. It's really joyful. And it became very clear very quickly that if we tried to temper that to be better for the camera, it wouldn't be true. So it needed to have that same kind of energy. So that was just like a great example. It's not about being big or small. It's about being true.
One of the things I've heard with the television and movie side of things is how well or to what extent the producers, directors receive feedback from the actors. Having gone from theater and then doing the movie for Rent, how open were they to adapting it?
Well, Chris Columbus, I was fortunate that I already knew him. I did Adventures of Babysitting with him when I was 15. It was my first film. I knew him to be a really good person, really good human being. That was his first film. He had written films, but that was his first directing. But then in the meantime, he'd become this mega successful Hollywood director doing the Harry Potter films and Home Alones. Right. So he had a lot of confidence and prestige, but what hadn't changed was the same on Adventures of Babysitting was he was incredibly collaborative. And, to me, a great film director, of course, they'll have their vision and they'll, you want to have that sense that they have the confidence enough to craft something that they want to make, but that they also have the room for they put together a cast that the cast is bringing a lot of stuff to it, that we also have something to contribute, that let's all do this together. So I felt pretty sure that would be the case with him, and it was absolutely the case. Nice. And especially because he cast 6 of us who had been in the original cast. Right. He wanted us to bring our expertise and our sense of understanding of the material and understanding of each other. So he wasn't standing in the way of any of that. And he wanted to make sure that we felt good about if there were changes, like why there were changes, where they were coming from. He included us in that process. It was like, if you look through the annals of history of shows being adapted to film, the only other cast that I know of where there's more than 1 or maybe 2 people is Streetcar Named Desire. There's 3.
Okay.
In the original cast of Streetcar who did the film. To have 6?
Yeah.
It's beyond miracle.
I was floored. I was really floored when I heard it was happening. I was like, this can't be real. Like you said, with that many of the original cast. It was so well done.
Thank you.
So professionally, what's next? What do you want to do next? What's the dream job?
I have dreams of doing like Iago in Othello.
Okay.
I mean, I've done a little bit of Shakespeare. It's incredibly rewarding. It's challenging. But to me, one of the gifts of the arts and being an actor is that we get to look in the nooks and crannies of human experience and sometimes the darker corners of human experience.
Absolutely.
And Shakespeare was so incredible at exploring the humanity of villains. And Iago is a true villain, but somebody, I think it's really important to keep looking at these because they're people. He was a person. Yeah, character, but there's current villains in our world right now who are people. They're human beings. So the more we can understand and explore and get in touch with that, I think is really important. So that's one of my dream roles. Nice. I would love to get the chance to try to climb that mountain. And then there, honestly, there's any number of things that have not been written yet. Like if you had asked me 30 years ago, what do you think about playing a documentary filmmaker in a rock opera? I would be like, sure. Anything can come my way. That's
true.
This play that I'm doing right now is a beautiful one-man play about really intense, complicated stuff. I love having the chance to work on this material. I got an email asking me if I'd be interested in doing it. I read the play, relieved that from the first page, I was like, oh, this is a good play.
And share what it's called.
It's called Touch, but it's that kind of thing that those are my dreams, is to be given the opportunity to be a part of something that is really trying to talk about the human experience. And
why is that important to you?
It's just what I want to have happen for me when I'm an audience member. I like to be entertained, but it's not, for me, that's really not enough ultimately. It has to have something more in there that's just, it can be lighter hearted in some ways, but it still has to have some sense of depth to me.
So as an audience member, what recently have you connected with?
I mean, I haven't watched a lot of stuff that's more recent because I have 2 toddlers, so we don't have a lot of time. But one of the more recent shows that we finally got around to watching that I thought had some great stuff in it and was really moving at times and really provocative in all sorts of good ways was Beef. It just turned. It kept turning in ways that felt really surprising, but also really truthful.
Well, let's get a little bit more personal. You already mentioned that you were born in Chicago. What was it like growing up in that area, and what area were you in?
I was in Joliet, which is a southwest suburb of Chicago that's in the intervening years, it's become a little more tied to Chicago. When you think of the Chicago, most people, when they think of the Chicago suburbs, at least from our generation, would be from like the John Hughes films.
Yeah.
And that's not the kind of suburban life. Joliet is a much more blue collar town.
Gotcha.
It was a steel town. Caterpillar, and it's famous because it has a major prison there. So, and it wasn't very, there's not like a lot of arts and culture happening in Joliet at the time. I think it's gotten a little, interestingly though, in my little cohort of high school years, not necessarily classmates, but within a couple of years of when I, like, maybe they were a senior when I was a freshman. 3 or 4 of us from that era have gone on to have pretty notable public facing artistic careers. Even though we did it, there were a couple, like we had a really good choir teacher.
Okay.
And there were, I did speech team. There was some, you could find it if you looked for it, but it wasn't like, like my half siblings went to New Trier, which has like arts programs, like robust, community supported major kind of vibe. In our high school, it was much more sort of sports and, like that kind of. So having said that, at the same time, 3 or 4 of us emerged and had, nice lives. So in the arts.
So when did you leave Chicago?
I graduated in '88 and
high school.
Okay. And I took a year off to try to get some more work to help pay for college. Because my mom, as a single mother nurse.
Yep.
So I left I left like a year later, went out to LA for a little bit to look for work. Okay. Got a job that helped me pay for my first year of NYU.
Nice.
So yeah, it was like right after high school.
So how was LA versus New York?
Well, talk about, it's different for me now. My husband is from the LA area.
Okay.
But he is not in showbiz. So finally, after all these years, I've had an experience of LA and of Southern California that's not showbiz centric, that I've come to appreciate much more about what's available there. But as a showbiz person, spending time in LA over the years has been really hard at times because
can imagine
the machinery of it is hard to escape, and the kind of structure of showbiz is much more about image in so many ways, and so much more about like popularity or the heat of the moment kind of thing, and that's not my vibe too much, but I kind of try to. I felt like I just have felt so often like square peg round hole, and trying to like. I think should I try to play the game, and I don't know how to play the game. I'm not good at playing the game. It's not the game I play.
Yeah.
So
not LA myself either.
I've had a hard time with that. At the same, but now going and spending time with Ken's family and like enjoying taking a hike on a hill.
Different experience.
Like I've come to appreciate so much more about what's there.
Nice. Well, back to Chicago. I understand, a big Chicago Bears fan, or Chicago Cubs fan,
yes.
Excuse me. Did you ever play baseball?
I played this much baseball.
Okay.
I just love the game.
I did see, if I saw correctly, in 2016, not only did you throw the first pitch, you also sang the Star Spangled Banner.
Yes.
What was that like?
That was really thrilling. That's something I had done before at other games.
Okay.
A couple times. I did
other Cubs games or?
No, Dodger Stadium and Fenway. So I was excited. I was especially excited to throw out the first pitch at Wrigley. Wrigley Field is an amazing stadium. And that turned out to be the year the Cubs won the World Series.
Wow.
Which they hadn't done since 1908.
Wow.
So it was a great season. They were in the middle of an amazing season.
Nice.
And the manager at the time, Joe Madden, was somebody that he was just like the perfect manager at the perfect time that I'd already admired. And the other times I've sung the national anthem, it's always been a nice experience. When I finished, as I'm walking, you walk off the field, he approached me and extended his hand and thanked me, and then spent a good minute chatting with me, So it was all
Wow.
a very, very, very special
Mm-hmm.
experience for all of those reasons.
I can
And then they
imagine.
went on to win the World Series. So, I was a little part of that magical season.
Let's talk a little bit about family. You've already mentioned your husband and the kids. How old are the kids?
2 and 3.
Ooh, okay, so yeah, you have your hands full. So give me a little bit of feedback. What's it like parenting and, well, not just parenting, but co-parenting with your schedule?
When I'm home,
Mm-hmm.
I can be, meaning I'm not working.
Mhm,
Generally,
right.
when I'm home, I'm not working because I'm mostly working when I'm not home, like having to go somewhere. I can be totally, essentially 24/7,
Mm-hmm.
dad or co-dad. I'm Papa, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm thrilled about that. I understand that people have nannies and need to do that, but I'm just really happy that I get to be hands-on
Mhm.
and helping. It's but right in raising, but right now I'm talking to 2 weeks into being apart from them. That's the longest I've been apart from them this whole time of
Oh,
their life or
wow.
my life. So I'm feeling it.
I was going to say, how are you
Grateful for
doing?
FaceTime.
Hmm.
It does help, and they're of an
Mhm.
age where they're actually starting to engage more in face. Like it depends on the day.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're just like goofing around,
Right.
but like where I'm feeling it, but at the same time, it's like, ugh, it's
Uh-huh.
hard. So I feel like as much as possible that they know that they can count on me to be present in their lives.
Mhm.
I hope that's what I want more than anything, is for them to know that they can count on me to be present and that they can be safe to be themselves with me.
And you have multiple children. So what have you learned so far in terms of how they are different?
I mean, they're very, very, they're very different. I mean, right, like just from if you were to see them
Mm-hmm.
and experience, just observe them for a certain amount of time, generally, Rye, the older one, is like he has a shining star kind of energy. He generally comes into a room and he's like, he's like 100 watts,
Gotcha.
And Keone, the younger one, tends to be a little more laid back and more observant, more chill, more kind of a reserve, but not like suppressed.
Mm-hmm.
Keone's starting to pop more lately, but that's one of the biggest differences. Yeah, Rye, it's like it's just sort of more aggressive energy in general, more like jump in. At the same time, interestingly, Keone, when we took him to gymnastics class when he was really young, never had a moment where he was afraid of doing something. Whereas Rye, who is more generally, sometimes there would be moments where he would just like not want to. So there's a lot of differences. There's many differences. But
Of course.
there's a spectrum.
Well, what made you want to have a family of your own?
What made me? It's hard to know exactly what made me. It's something that I thought about a long, long time ago, but I contemplated different scenarios, was always afraid that my life in showbiz would make it too unwieldy or not, wouldn't be great for the kids. When would I do it? And then working on Star Trek Discovery, Sonequa Martin Green, who was our lead of our show, had at the time one kid. Just watching her firsthand, really close up, because I was working with her every day, how she was managing to the best of her ability, the huge load she was carrying to be the lead in our show and to be a mom. I don't know, it just started to make me think it could be possible. And then during COVID, we were talking about it more like, what if? And it was also intimidating, like, there's different pathways. I had friends who did adoption. I had a friend who, she had a sperm donor, and then she carried her own baby. I know there's so many different ways to do it.
Yeah.
So I just started doing a little research on surrogacy as an option. And once, it's like anything, it seems really daunting. And then as soon as I start to open the door, and then once there's a clear pathway, then I'm like, okay, then I'm not, there was no fear at that point. And then we're like, yep, we're doing.
Nice. In terms of family, you've talked about your mom, and she passed, unfortunately, when you were fairly young, 20s.
I was 25 when she died.
And cancer, yes?
Cancer, yeah.
I noticed that there were a couple mentions in different interviews and other things I saw of losses. There was mom, you mentioned in one interview, you had come from a service, and you were late for your audition for Rent, and then the composer for Rent also passed at a young age. How have you handled loss, or how has that affected you?
I don't know that I have a pat answer or an easy answer. What I can say is that I've handled it in the sense that there's no one way to do it, and that I've discovered for myself that it doesn't frighten me.
Wow, nice.
It's necessary. And I've tried to avail myself to friends and loved ones who have experienced profound loss too, as a safe haven to be able to talk about whatever is there. Right. That it's inherently mysterious. It's inherently not one size fits all. And it's also, there's a lot of gifts in it too. It's a beautiful, difficult, painful, beautiful, loving, all of it all at once. Yeah. And it changes over time. And, it's been almost 30 years since my mom died. And there's different ways I get hit with different waves at different moments. Having kids right now, like I'm missing her more now in some ways than I did before. In the sense, I just wish I could sometimes just after having a conversation with my sons about like moments that they've had trying to figure out how to resolve a conflict or something, she would be a person I would want to talk to about that. I can't. But at the same time, I don't mean this like in a ghost spirit way. I just mean like our relationship isn't over either.
Well, and because you did the book and the show, and talked about that as well. What was that experience like of doing the show?
It was getting to spend time with her and Jonathan. That was the biggest takeaway. I mean, there was a lot of things, but that was one of the. I didn't know going into doing the show like it was just going to feel like horrible every day, like to just touch into that profound grief in the way that kind of had to happen to tell the truth about the experience. But I really felt like I'm really in touch with her. I'm really talking to her every night. Nice. She's talking to me. Nice. And so that was a gift of it. Nice. And then I kept knowing that in so doing that it was also for many audience members, because of the feedback I was getting, helping them do the same thing with their loved ones. Yeah. And I read in one of them, you said it was cathartic. And I talk with people all the time about grief as a therapist. And there are so many different ways to grieve. And I thought that was very poignant, being able to do the book and then turn it into the show. Yeah. I can only imagine. Thank you. I wanted to ask one other question about, or related to, I should say, your mom. My understanding is you came out to her when you were 18. Yes. And perhaps even another conversation before that. Before that, yeah, too. That was young at that time. How was the coming out process for you? It was kind of multi-layered. The first thing that happened when I was 14, I had this sort of rolling around with this slightly older kid. I think he was 17 or 18. Okay. I don't know his exact age now, but she found out about that because we were at our other friend's house and his dad came down. We were in the living room, having a sleepover. And his dad saw us under the covers. He'd come down to the kitchen or whatever. And he told his wife called my mom. So she confronted me. And I don't know where this came from in me at the time. I was like, yeah, that happened. I wanted it to happen. I look back on it and I'm like, what? How? I don't know where I had such wherewithal. I don't. Right. And she was mostly, so this was in 86. Okay. So the height of the AIDS crisis. And she was a nurse. And she was very aware of what was going on with AIDS and HIV. I didn't even think about that part. And there were also actors that I'd worked with who died from AIDS and HIV-related illness and or were sick. So she was her biggest, it wasn't necessarily in that conversation, but in the intervening years, that was her biggest understandable fear and concern. Of course, yeah. And in that case, too, she was worried that because this kid was a little older, that was also something about that, which is also understandable now as an adult. I can look back and say, I'm just speaking from my experience as a 14-year-old, I was like, yep. But after that, this happens to me a lot, I think. Even if I can have a moment where like, yeah, it's clear. And then there's like an aftermath where I go, maybe I need to be more careful. Maybe this is a part that I need to tuck away a little bit more and not be so, bold about. So it was really another 3-4 years before then when I had my first boyfriend.
Gotcha.
And I wanted to tell her about my boyfriend. That's why I wanted to tell her I met someone and was having a relationship. And I had a similar bold feeling about wanting to share that with her. But also understanding and being aware that she had, might have some discomfort because I was aware of especially the stuff around AIDS and HIV.
Yeah. Was there anything in particular that you feel helped bring her around or make her more comfortable with it?
Yeah, I guess it was really fear of safety. She wasn't, in my experience, I don't think she was just uncomfortable with the notion of, there wasn't an ick factor, I don't think. She was concerned about safety of HIV and AIDS, but also safety just sort of general. It wasn't the friendliest time for queer people.
Right.
So she didn't want my life to be hard, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's not the thing that many people experience of there's something wrong with you, there's something wrong with this.
Gotcha.
It was more concern and worry. But she was also, just generally, she was a worried person. She was worried about safety, health, generally, making good choices, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Good choices that would not endanger you. And felt a sense of protectiveness.
And again, Mama Bear, that never goes away.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what's going on or how old you are.
And then in the time between then and her death, I talked, especially towards the end, we were having really open conversations about so many things. That was something that she wanted to do before she died and something I wanted to do before she died. And, I had a boyfriend at the time. We were having some issues with fights and temper, and it was stressful anyway. And I was open with her about that, and she was supportive in those conversations. It was the experience I had was of concern of safety, and then my own generally not wanting to worry her. And my own reticence was, I had felt the impact from that conversation when I was 14, that I had been so defiant just bold. Yeah. And that had been jarring for her and made her sad, and, that it was like, it just wasn't.
When you're the baby?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's when I was a little more circumspect after that. And that started to, I was letting go of more and more of that before she died. And, I think we would have gotten to an even more open and an even better place had she had more life.
Well, thinking back toward that time, what would you say to 18-year-old self?
Oh, boy. Boy. I mean, hold on to your core truth as much as possible, and your mom loves you no matter what.
Well,
you can't do or say anything that's really going to break her heart.
That's a big one. I think it takes us a while to get there. So many of us, some of us never do, to recognize that our parents are people. And I can only imagine now, as a parent, what that opens up, thinking back on your mom. That kind of segues into my wow segment, which is our words of wisdom. I like to ask all of my guests, in regard to being authentic, being yourself, what words of wisdom or advice do you have for others?
It's stolen from, there was a queer youth group that I visited when I was doing Dazed Confused in Austin, Texas in 1990. What did we film that? 92 or 93?
Love that movie as well.
And it was interestingly, it was like emblazoned on the wall. Somebody had stenciled it on the wall of this youth group.
Okay.
Queer youth group. But it was too anonymous, which is interesting when you hear the quote. But there's only one you for all time, fearlessly be yourself.
Wow.
And
I love that.
It's just so simple, but it's just the truth.
I've come to realize that so many simple statements they're very basic, and some of them I've hated, like you don't know until you know. I've always hated phrases like that, but it's such a simplistic truth. Well, thank you so much for being here. It has been a pleasure spending some time with you, getting to know a little bit more about you. I'm very impressed with your very long list of accolades and work. Love Adventures in Babysitting. love Rent, and love Dazed and Confused. That being said, what would you like to share with people in terms of socials and or what's going on with you and where they can get more information?
Instagram is really the only one that I'm engaged with right now actively. And it's really, I'm only using it right now to just talk about work stuff.
Yep.
But it's Albino Kid 1026.
Anything else you'd like to share in terms of what's coming up for you or what you're working on right now?
I mean, I'm happy to have a lot of opportunity to do live performance these days, which is my heart. So I'm doing this. I don't know when this is coming out, but I'm doing just a short run of this wonderful solo play called Touch that we hope will have more life. I'm going to be doing like a concert version of Follies in Chicago.
Oh, nice.
Which is a classic musical.
Fun.
And then lots of concerts with Adam Pascal. We have that ongoing all over the country, here and there. And then there's other little things that are percolating, but nothing, in the public eye yet. And raising my boys.
Very, very cool. Again, thank you so much for being here. My name is Shane Hodges, licensed professional counselor and author of It's Time to Be You, How to Become Your Most Authentic Self. Thank you all for watching. Be yourselves and have a great day, everybody. Thanks again to the Transgender Center of the Rockies for being this season's Authenticity Ambassador. We appreciate all the work you do. Check them out at transgendercenteroftherockies.org.